Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and The Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, which today is Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena because the Predators are in action tonight at 7 o'clock hosting the Philadelphia Flyers. Pre-game coverage starting at 6 p.m. on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game. What a freaking game last night. If I would have told you, D-Mase, that the Titans would have turned the ball over 3 times, that Derrick Henry would have had less than 35 yards, that they just gift-wrapped and handed the Dolphins an early Christmas present of 21 points, I would have told you, the score is probably 70-6.
I would have thought it would have been at least a 21-point win by the Dolphins.
Beatdown of epic proportion, especially considering no Christian Fulton, no Jeffrey Simmons. But the Titans did something I think that is nothing short of miraculous. Went on the road in Miami, took down the Dolphins, the best offense in the NFL this season. 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, down 14. They go for 2, they get it, and win it 28-27.
You know, I look at this game, and it's just typical of the NFL. It's, you know, on certain nights, certain teams have it and certain teams don't. Sometimes it's just, it feels like it's just almost meant for a certain team to win. No matter what goes on, it's just meant for them to win. And last night, it was one of those games for the Titans. It was, you know, I said yesterday, if they keep it close going into halftime, I said they got a chance. Now, did I think they were going to win, even though they kept it close? No, but I said they had a chance. Well, they stayed in the game long enough, and Miami started to panic. McDaniels, I'm going to say this, but I don't want to take away from what the Titans did, because the Titans forced the Dolphins into an uncomfortable situation. The Dolphins are not used to being in an uncomfortable situation because either, you know, they're blowing somebody out or they have a big enough lead or their playmakers are on the field, so they're not just worried. They're not worried. But I don't understand McDaniels' coaching. I really don't. I think McDaniels is a good coach, but I don't understand some of the things he did toward the end of the game. Not having to, I know Tyreek's ankle was bothering him, but you chose to have him return a kickoff, and then subsequently the next couple of plays he don't play at all, and then it's third down, then you put him in the game. It was like either you're gonna have a guy in the game or you're not.
I'd rather just throw someone random out there, call a fair catch, and have Tyreek when it matters.
Exactly. That's what I didn't understand with the coaching. Like, were you that arrogant? And I think I said this yesterday. I said the Dolphins could be overlooking the Titans for whatever reason. They figure, you know, we got this Maserati, and they got an old Pinto, and you know we're good.
Old Bullet.
Yeah, old Bullet. We're good. You know, and we'll beat them no matter what. But the longer the Dolphins allow, or the longer the Titans force themselves to be in the game, because it wasn't that the Dolphins allowed them to be in the game, because they didn't. The Dolphins were down at the 3-yard line. The defense came up big. I know it was a muff snap, but Tua was able to still get the ball. And their defensive guy, one of the defensive linemen, knocked the ball out of his hands. And then they get a recovery. That takes 7 points or even 3 points off the board. The Titans did to the Dolphins what Buffalo did to them. Who else did they lose to? Was it Philly? They lost to 3 other teams that basically just like took it to them physically. And when they don't have the Dolphins, meaning they don't have their best left tackle in Armstead, their center went out. They didn't have another one of their tackles.
Waddle and Hill were out.
Exactly. But yet and still, even with Tyreek Hill in the game early, the Titans were physical with them. That was the only way they were going to beat them. They were going to play coverage on the back end, and they were going to, and I said this is a game where that front seven, they got to do their job because we can't blitz. We cannot blitz. We got to sit there and we got to play coverage. So guys up front, y'all got to do y'all job. And hell if they didn't do their job. That front seven did exactly what they were supposed to do. They put enough pressure on Tua that it made him uncomfortable in the huddle. And then when Tyreek Hill went out, and this made me think about it. Tyreek Hill should be the MVP. He should be, no lie.
That's a different team without Tyreek Hill.
He is because he's and I know it. I've been there. He's the energy guy. He's the guy he's a hell of a playmaker, but he's the energy guy. He's the guy that brings the energy to everybody. It's infectious. When he went out, you saw that energy level just.
Tua looked like a different quarterback.
Exactly. And the Titans took advantage of every opportunity there was.
They did. And that is a completely different Dolphins team. And yes. I am usually, and maybe this is on me for saying this in front of a former wide receiver, I always look at the MVP and I say, it's going to go to a quarterback.
Yeah, you think it would.
You think it would because it's quarterback.
Quarterback-driven league.
It's a quarterback-driven league. Looking at what the Dolphins can be versus what they were when Tyreek Hill was on the sideline, that's the most valuable player in the National Football League. There is no player more important to their football team than Tyreek Hill is to the Miami Dolphins, and we saw it on full display last night. And look, if Tyreek Hill is in the game, it's probably a much different ball game. If Tyreek Hill doesn't get hurt, if there wasn't such a myriad of injuries for the Dolphins that there were last night, early was Xavier Howard, and then Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. There were a couple more injuries sprinkled in throughout the game last night. But also, the Titans didn't have Jeffrey Simmons.
No,
which
Titans
I don't
didn't
think
have
Jeffrey Simmons is as valuable to the Titans as Tyreek Hill is to the Dolphins, but still, neither team were completely healthy. It's week 12. You know, not every team is going to be completely healthy. But that was a different team, a different Dolphins team without Tyreek Hill. But I have to give, Tyreek Hill or not, I have to give that Titans defense a whole heck of a lot of credit.
It was
scored 6 offensive points.
Yeah, it was. They played this.
Or 6 points that weren't handed to them by the Titans.
I mean, they got the pick 6 early in the game. But then Levis settled down. The offense settled down, even though it was still back and forth sort of. And there was really no one, getting in the end zone. The Titans did exactly. They calmed down, and they understood. Like, I think they got to a point early in the game. They were like, we can play with these guys. Like, we can really play with these guys if we do the things necessary that we're supposed to do, even though at times they didn't. Fumbles here, fumbles there, interception for touchdowns. They didn't do – it wasn't perfect, but it was enough to beat the Miami Dolphins. And the one person that we have to give credit to, and this game is not won if this person isn't doing the things that he's doing. Hell, damn Vrabel, damn anybody else. Tim Kelly. This needs to be a game where when people recognize Tim Kelly, because this had nothing to do with Vrabel. This had nothing to do with anybody else. Tim Kelly put together a game plan that exposed the Miami Dolphins. That's just what he did. He kept them off balance. He did trick plays. He tried to run the football. They couldn't, but he stuck with it at times. He ran Tajae Spears, which against Miami, Tajae Spears was the better runner.
I thought Tajae Spears was fantastic.
Exactly, because he was faster than Derrick Henry. And when Derrick Henry got the ball, they were able to get up on him real quick because that defense is fast. At times, they couldn't match the speed with Tajae Spears. But you got to take your hat off to Tim Kelly, because he did a masterful job at calling that game last night. And then Will Levis did a wonderful job, especially on those last 2 series right before the end of the game, at positioning his team to go down, score, and then go down and score again and take the lead.
I thought it was a very well-called game in the second half, especially in the had-to-have-it moments, in those final 2 drives, to go up 28-27. There were some drives, though, that I was frustrated, where I wanted to see them take a few more risks, especially at the end of the first half when it's, it was 10-7 at that point, and you're running the ball. Try and take a few shots. Try and be a little bit riskier, because you've got a quarterback that's got a heck of an arm and a quarterback that's frankly not afraid to take some of those risks. And if you throw an interception, dang it, you throw an interception.
But they were playing the game the way they needed to play, Caroline. They didn't need to take any unnecessary, because the game was close.
Yeah.
They had the game.
They were in that game.
They had the game right where they wanted it. So for them, we don't need to take any unnecessary chances down the field, or I don't need to get this game to where now it's become sort of, I want to make this track meet because it's 10-7 and we're close and nobody expects us to be close. So, all right, let's go. Let's try to – no. Play your game, stay within what you want to do as a offensive coordinator, and allow the game to come to you. And that's just what Tim Kelly and that offense did. They allowed the game to come to you. They exposed both of those corners. Again, I think, and I said this yesterday, I think that Jalen Ramsey is a hell of an athlete. He's a hell of an athlete, but no longer is he that shutdown corner that he was 2 or 3 years ago. He's not that guy anymore.
Got all folded up yesterday too.
He's not that guy anymore. He plays a lot of off coverage. He tries to play a lot of catch coverage. He's not the guy that you can line up every single play and say, you take this guy. DeAndre Hopkins wore his ass out. He did. Basically, whenever he was on him, he wore him out. That's what it was supposed to be. A bigger receiver going against, and Jalen's 6 foot, 6'1", but it's when you're going against these big physical receivers, you may have trouble. And he had trouble with DeAndre Hopkins. But the Titans stayed within what they wanted to do as a team. When the game was close, they didn't get outside themselves. They didn't get excited. They didn't, jump the gun or anything. They stayed with what they were doing, and they said we're going to allow the game to come to them. And the game came to them, and they answered the bell when they needed to.
And I'm good with taking calculated risks. And I thought the passing game for the most part yesterday was fantastic.
Yes.
DeAndre Hopkins, Tajae Spears in the passing game.
Chris Moore.
Chig even had a couple of clutch catches in there. What about Derrick Henry? With
Henry.
probably the best catch of his career. I saw that and I was like, wait, is that 22?
I thought it was
What?
I thought it was Treylon Burks that caught the ball. I'm like, okay. But then I'm like, that's Derrick Henry.
Did Derrick Henry just jump up and climb the ladder for a catch?
It's like, wow. Okay.
Okay, Derek. Somebody's been putting in some work.
Somebody been on a jug machine.
Somebody's been working with Rob Moore a little bit. And I do want to get into what you saw in the passing game, what you saw from those individual receivers. But first, the pick six early in the game. That was the first 7 that you handed Miami. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh, no, this is going to be so ugly. Because this is a Miami team that doesn't really need to take handouts. That's a Miami team that can march down the field just fine on their own. Who do you put that pick six on? Who do you put that interception on?
I think I think Peter Skoronski, I put it on him. He has to stay on that block.
Up.
Yeah, he has to stay on that block. He has to. Will Levis has to see it. Because the way it was like, it wasn't like he came out of nowhere and Tajae was just wide open right here. You were just like, okay. And then that guy just came across.
He was on Tajae.
He was there right there. And I think Will Levis panicked. He panicked and wanted to get the ball off really quick. So I blame Will Levis and I blame Peter Skoronski. I can't blame Tajae Spears. I think it was a good play call. In a situation like that, sometimes you just got to dirt it. I think he panicked just a little bit, got excited just a little bit, and didn't realize where the defensive lineman was, and that was basically a get me. But after that, he settled down. Now he still had a few throws that was like, ugh, because he trusts his arm so much. But beside that one pass, I think he settled down. He played within the framework of the game plan, and he did things when he had to do. He played hero ball when he had to play hero ball. When he didn't have to play hero ball, he didn't do it.
What grade would you give him last night?
Will Levis, man, a C plus, C, flat out C. Okay. Because again, you go back to the interception, you go back to the fumble. That was his fault. He threw it. It was a hard, pitch to Derrick Henry high and off to his right when he's running to his left.
And that's 14 points.
That's 14 points. So but what he did in, right before half, and orchestrating that the offense to get 3 points, and then honestly what he did the last 2 possessions of the game when he should have been sacked. He should have been sacked on one. I think it was the second before the last, or it was the one right before halftime, where he should have been sacked.
Oh, the Bradley Chubb attempted sack?
Absolutely.
And Bradley Chubb was irate.
Oh, yeah. Then he get
so
a 15-yard penalty. I'm like, he threw his helmet out. It's a 15-yard penalty. I didn't think they were going to call it. They ended up calling it, tacked on 15 more yards. But he did exactly, again, he played within the framework of the offense, meaning Will Levis. He didn't try to play hero ball unless he just had to. And when he had to, it was a scrambling. When he scrambled out and ended up throwing it to D-Hop in the end zone. The last 2 minutes of the game where he had to make certain throws and do certain things. That's when he had to play hero ball just a little bit. But beside that, I think he did a good job at seeing what they were doing, because they were playing just coverage in the back end. They didn't try to, it didn't seem like they tried to confuse him much.
Yeah.
They played coverage. I don't think they respected the ability for the Tennessee Titans to get down the field. I don't think they did. And the Titans stayed patient, and he did exactly what the game plan called for him to do. Take what they give you, move the ball methodically down the field, and don't make no mistakes. He made a few, but he played well enough. They kept the game close enough, and he played well enough in the end for them to win.
He made a few mistakes. And there are certain mistakes that Will Levis is making that I'm thinking, all right, you're a rookie, but we're going to have to start learning from those. We're going to have to stop having the initial reaction be panic. We're going to have to think a little bit quicker and maybe dirt those balls that you should dirt. I would say, for the most part, Will Levis processes things very quickly.
Yeah.
He can make very quick reactions. But there are some, like the pick six, that I'm thinking, you can't throw that football. You can't throw that. And there was some early on, the play calling was getting frustrating to me because it was screen after screen and, hand the ball off for a loss of 1 or a gain of 2. And I do think that they started to find their groove a little bit. Tim Kelly did, Will Levis did, D-Hop, Tajae Spears, Chig, so on and so forth. But early on, that just felt like there were so many opportunities that weren't taken. And I think the Dolphins' defense was reading that. And that's when Will Levis was kind of walking himself into some of those bad decisions and bad situations, is because the Miami defense saw what was coming. But I do think that at the end of the game, when they had to have it moments, that's when you really saw what makes Will Levis special. And that's one of my bigger takeaways from this game is, look, we can talk about the individual win and what it means for this team. Part of the frustrating thing about that game for me was, look at that defensive performance that you had without Jeffrey Simmons. Where's that been all year long? It's great to see it last night, but now it's almost like it's too late. You're 5-8. You're probably out of the playoffs. So we can talk about what that win means for this season, really. But at this point, I don't really think it makes that big of a difference. The bigger thing to me is you saw kind of a peek behind the curtain of Will Levis. What he's got up here in his brain, what he's got in his arm, and what he can orchestrate in certain drives when you just need to move the football down the field. And he made some incredibly clutch plays when they had to have it. And that was a Will Levis game to me. He had some big boy drives last night that I'm thinking, okay, welcome to the NFL, Will Levis.
Well, he does it. It doesn't seem as if he plays to me sort of like Josh Allen. Where he trusts his arm so much that he's going to try to fit it in spaces that you probably just don't need to throw. He's going to, try to take the game, in his hands on his own at times. And sometimes it may work, but then sometimes it's not going to work and it's going to bite you in the backside. He reminds me of that guy. Tremendous arm, knows what he want to do. Like you said, he can decipher and sort of figure this thing out very quickly, meaning the defense. But he still has some things he need to work on. But it's promising to see what he was able to do to the quote. I'm throwing up quotations here. The number one defense. At least in the AFC or a top. I think they may have been number one because of what Cleveland hasn't done the last couple of weeks.
They're definitely top
they're
six
top
defense
5 defense in the NFL. Yeah, but again, when you play teams like this, They're a very fast. This team is fast across the board, offensively and defensively. They're fast across the board. When you play against a fast team, and you know they don't have their speed, you don't have their speed. You don't try to match speed with speed. You try to counter it with physicality and just brute and just keeping everything in a phone booth. And when you need to go outside that phone booth, then you're able, because what you've done for the most part is keep it in the phone booth, beat them up, and then you throw it over the top, which the Titans did perfectly.
Yeah.
They ran the ball. Even though it wasn't effective, they still ran, and they had to respect the run. Miami had to respect the Titans running the football. So they couldn't do some of the things they probably wanted to do, which caused, Will Levis to be able to then play action and pick them apart. Again, I go to Tim Kelly. He put together an excellent game plan because he kept them off balance. You don't know how many times. I mean, y'all heard it. I mean, you can hear the announcer saying, "Oh, a trick play here. Be conscious of a trick play by the Titans here. This is what they like to do." They're trying to keep this fast defense off balance. Get them going, flowing real hard one way and come back the other way. And the Titans and Tim Kelly did that masterfully. This has nothing to do, to me, this has nothing to do with Vrabel. This has everything to do with Tim Kelly. I hope he got the game ball, he and Will Levis, because both of them deserved it.
And I'm glad that you bring up Mike Vrabel. I was on with Robbie and Joe this morning, and they pointed out one of Gentry Estes' columns in the Tennessean. The headline is, "The Tennessee Titans got a timely reminder to value what they have in Mike Vrabel." So I want to get into that coming up next. What one game could do for the perception of Mike Vrabel, and honestly, does he really even deserve it? We'll get into that coming up next. And of course, since it is a Titans Monday on a Tuesday, we get into your phones early and we get into your phones often. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get your calls, get your texts, your reaction, and your takeaways from the Titans, what we saw from the defense, what we saw from Will Levis. Everything is on the table. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, Mike Vrabel will speak with the media at the podium at noon at the top of the hour, so we will carry that live in its entirety. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of things that that were going to cost us, obviously. The turnovers, the mistakes, but we did more. We did more positive things late. Defense kept giving us a chance. We got some stops. And then the offense needed to come through. They came through. And it doesn't have to be that hard, but I'm proud of the character of this football team. Competing and then having it go in a different direction real quick, and then coming back and getting stops late, and being able to move the football late in the game, score, and was really proud of these guys.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel in his post-game press conference. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're live out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern. Predators taking on the Philadelphia Flyers tonight at Bridgestone Arena. So I was on with Robbie and Joe this morning, and Joe said, I want to get your thoughts on Gentry Estes' most recent column. The headline is, the Tennessee Titans got a timely reminder to value what they have in Mike Vrabel. And Gentry Estes writes about all of the criticism that Mike Vrabel has been getting this season. And let me add, rightfully so.
Yes.
You're 5-8. This team's horrible.
This is what I don't understand, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you get
Go
back
ahead.
there. But this is what I don't understand. Like, why can't it's like certain people like you just can't say anything about them. Like, don't say anything. You can't criticize them anything. You can't say anything about them. If that's the case, you guys need to go to a bigger market. To me, like, listen, in bigger markets, they criticize you if you win, they criticize you if you lose. It's no different here. It's like when he's not doing when they're not doing what they're supposed to do as a team, we have a right to criticize them, because it wasn't like it was a 5-game stretch that they were not doing what they were supposed to do. This dates back all the last season, so when you criticize them, it's not, we never said you should fire him, but yes, the way they were trending, yeah, you need to be held accountable for what's going on in your locker room. Mm-hmm. It's your locker room. So I don't understand this. Oh, you can't. He's so far from blame that you should be ashamed of yourself to even go down that road. No, it's a job. It's a performance-based league. If you're not doing the job, people have a right to criticize you. We didn't criticize him in a way that we just dogged him. It was like, your team's not good. This roster's not good. What do you need to do as a coach? Do they need to fire you? No, but your butt needs to be accountable for what's going on with your team. So certain things I just don't understand. It's like, okay, but this give you a great time to sort of, I told you so. Like, you don't criticize Vrabel, you don't criticize whatever, because look at what he can do for you. You're right. They won a game. That's one singular game, and we're going to enjoy it. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to rave on it. But if they come back next week and lay 8, we're going to be back on his ass again. So that's just my two cents on that.
Totally fair. And I don't think Gentry was necessarily saying that the criticism was unwarranted. But per his article and per the headline of last night's win is a timely reminder to value what they have in Mike Vrabel. D-Mase, is your perception of Mike Vrabel any different after last night's game?
No, it's no different. Because to me, I understand that whole dynamic. That's why I gave so much praise to Tim Kelly. Tim Kelly and Shane Bowen. Shane Bowen did a good enough job to hold off that high-powered offense. Now, he got some help because their best player wasn't there, but that doesn't matter. He had that defense ready. He had the game plan in place. Make this team methodically drive the ball down the field. We're not giving up anything, over the top for a 60, 70-yard touchdown. We're going to force them to drive the ball, and I'm asking y'all to earn your paychecks today, defensive line, and they did. And then I look at Tim Kelly. It was a masterful game plan because he wasn't chasing. He wasn't chasing points. He wasn't looking at the scoreboard. He was calling the game based upon what he was seeing. This has nothing to do with Vrabel. Y'all need to be praising Tim again. Praise Tim Kelly and Will Levis and D-Hop. Those 3 guys. Praise them. And the other guys did a wonderful job too. But when I say praise them, I'm talking about the 3 guys that you needed to have big, like come up big in games. Your quarterback and your receiver. Your running back came up big. He scored twice, but he couldn't really get going.
The numbers weren't there.
Exactly. The numbers weren't there, but when he needed to score, he scored. But you got to give it up to Tim Kelly. That's why I hope Tim Kelly got the game ball, because what he did offensively with that team, that has nothing to do with Vrabel. Not a damn thing to do with Vrabel. You can say the 2-point play. Hey, I want to go for 2.
I'll give him credit for the decision.
I go for the decision, not the play.
Not the play. That was a fantastic
Exactly.
play, a fantastic throw from Will Levis.
Absolutely. I will give him the decision to go for 2. But we gotta give these coordinators some love here. We got to give them some love because they did a hell of a job. Every time this team wins, we always run the Vrabel. No, those coordinators, they did their job. They put together a game plan to win this football game. That was all Tim Kelly, and that was all Shane Bowen, at least to me.
It was a great win.
It
was
was
an exciting win. But I think giving Vrabel as much credit as, totally shifting my perception of Mike Vrabel as a coach is totally unfair to what Will Levis did.
Exactly.
Is totally unfair to what that defense did, to Harold Landry's 3 sacks, how they got after Tua. I think that would be totally unfair to DeAndre Hopkins in the night that he had last night. Vrabel doesn't have anything to do with that, but I get it. He's the coach.
Yeah.
Blame goes on him and credit goes to him. It's the same thing as the quarterback. Too much praise, too much blame. I understand that it's a trickle-up effect to the head coach. But there were so many other factors last night that I think Will Levis deserves the praise. DeAndre Hopkins deserves the praise. The defense deserves the praise. And one big win in Miami against a team like that, yes, oh my goodness, that's a heck of a win. And it makes you feel really good about what the future of this team can be. But it doesn't automatically erase everything that this team has been this season. This team has been awful. It has been special team snafus. It has been a regressing defense. It's been an offense that cannot score on the road. It's been a team that's been mistake after dumb penalty after turnover. Those things aren't just magically erased because you win against a good team on the road in prime time.
No, it's not. And, I go back to, Shannon Sharp said this, and I heard this, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. He said, listen, what we didn't allow in the loss with Shanahan, we didn't allow in the win. Just because he wins doesn't mean things change. Like, if we still have the same mess ups, but we found a way to win the game, it doesn't take away the fact that we still had the mess ups. Like, we need to correct the mess up. Nothing's changed. We just need to correct that, okay? It's the same with Vrabel. My perception of him doesn't change based upon his win. I've always thought he was a good coach.
Yeah.
But, his feet need to be put to the fire when your team is not winning. Okay? And this one win doesn't change anything. His feet still need to be held to the fire. Like, now can your team come back home and get a much-needed victory within the side of the division? Because you can praise them all you want to now, but if they come back home and it looks different, then we're back to, Vrabel, he should be on the hot seat. He should be, held responsible for what's going on. No. What I don't allow in a loss, I'm not going to allow in a win. There are some things they need to clear up offensively and defensively, even in a win. So, to me, my perception of Vrabel doesn't change. What changes, though, is my perception of Tim Kelly, my perception of Will Levis. Even though there are still things he needs to get better at, but this kid, listen, I don't know if he's going to be just all-world franchise quarterback. He may just be a good quarterback that can win you some games, and if the right situation comes along, some things happen, he can take you further than what you thought. He may just be that. But there is something in this kid from a moxie standpoint, from a dog standpoint.
There is a fire in his soul.
He is the energy for that team. Just like Tyreek Hill is the energy for Miami. And you saw when he left how it was just like flatlined. Will Levis is that for the offense. It's no longer in nothing against Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is still great. But Will is their energy. He's the young, strong-armed, just big, stocky quarterback that's not afraid, that don't get rattled. You knock him down 10 times, he's going to get up, 10 times and 9 times and keep fighting. That's Will Levis. He's your energy.
He at least was last night.
Exactly.
I needed him to start sliding.
Yeah, I need to start sliding.
The bullet at China Shop, I'm sure, gets everyone riled up on the sidelines. But he's going to end up in a hospital bed if he continues to lead with his shoulder and try to go one-on-one with linebackers.
But that's that Josh Allen type of play. That's that, sort of a la Steve McNair type of play where it's just like, it's just in me to do it. I can't not do it. Like, if I see it, I got to do it. It's like everything in me is telling me to do it or telling me not to do it, but then in my mind, it's like, you got to do it. You're like, that is who you are. That's who he is. Will Levis is a football player. That's all I want. If I had 11 football players, I win a championship just about every year. Will Levis is a football player. He doesn't care. We play in the mud. We play in snow. We play in heat. It doesn't matter to him. He's going to play the same identical way as far as his mentality.
What do you think about him and when they cut away to him on the sideline after that last touchdown to go up 28-27?
That's
when
what
he's
you need.
throwing his helmet and screaming. What did you think about that?
I loved it. They need that. They need that energy. They need a guy like that. They don't have a guy like that. Derrick Henry's not that guy. He's not that rah-rah guy. Derrick just goes out and do his job, and because he does his job, everybody else follow behind. He's just a consummate pro. He's a leader. They don't have nobody outside of that, like, that gets them going. That's that spark plug. Will Levis is their spark plug. He's that guy. I love the energy. I hope he keeps it up. Young man, keep playing the way you're playing as far as from a mentality standpoint. You got to learn when to slide in. You got to learn when to do those plays and when not to do those plays. When the defensive lineman gets you on a pick six, don't try to tackle him in the end zone. He's 100 pounds more than you. He's bigger than you. Don't let him walk in. Hey, take it. You can have it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can have it. I don't need to hurt myself. But other than that, Will Levis, continue to play with the demeanor and the personality that you're playing with because this offense needs it.
I loved it too. Because I can't count how many times. I think we talked about this after the Baltimore game. That it looked like everyone on the sideline was just like yawning on the sideline. It felt like there were so many games this season that this team looked uninspired, looked unmotivated. And part of that falls on the coaching staff. I would say a majority of that probably falls on the coaching staff. But the energy wasn't there. I saw that from Will Levis last night. And part of me does think, can't get too high, can't get too low. When going through the draft process, that was talked a lot about how much emotion he plays with. We saw a positive side of that last night. The relentlessness, the toughness, the I don't care that we're down 2 scores with 3 minutes left. We're going to win this football game. That's an important mentality to have. I fear the other side of it. The highs and the lows. That when you let yourself sometimes maybe get a little bit too high, there's another side of that where you get a little bit too low. So I fear for that, and I want to make sure that Will Levis stays level-headed and grounded. But if we're just looking at it yesterday, I loved what I saw. Yeah,
I don't expect moving forward that he will get too low. He's one of those. He's like a Brett Favre type of guy in the sense of that emotion and you have to play with that as a quarterback. Tom Brady was fierce. Tom Brady was fierce as a competitor. That's why he won the way he won, because his relentlessness, his approach, his demeanor. He always wanted to attack. He had that. It was just something about him. I'm not saying Will Levis is Tom Brady. Please don't. I'm not saying that, people.
He could be. We don't know.
Yeah, he could be, but he's going to take him a minute. But that thing that he plays with, I know it. I know that thing that he plays with. Not everybody has it. You don't want to taper it. You don't want to taper that, because the minute you try to taper it, you take away from his game. Let him play with that emotion. Let him grow into honing it. He's going to get high. He's going to do that. Allow him and work with him to just hone it in. You can play with that emotion, but just make sure you hone it all in.
Funnel it into a positive place.
Exactly. Keep that emotion. No one's to say anything about him getting too high. Let him stay high. Let him play the way he plays, because not many people have that in this game. He plays with an emotion not many quarterbacks have. He plays with that outward emotion that I don't see on offense. And I'm not, again, they got some great players. D-Hop, D. Henry, great players on that offense. But they don't play with the emotion that the quarterback does, that Will Levis does. Keep it. Let him keep it, because you know what it does? Now it filters to everybody else. My quarterbacks, he's always there. He's got that mentality. So we got to play with that mentality.
Certain things that you can't coach.
Yeah.
And
if you take it away from him, he's done.
And the level of competition and competitiveness that Will Levis plays with is something you simply cannot teach.
No.
You either have it or you don't. And we saw yesterday, Will Levis has got it.
Exactly.
Let's get into your thoughts on this coming up next. 615-737-1025. Mike Vrabel in 15 minutes. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025 The Game.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. I know you're happy, man, because you watched an exciting game last night. And boy, oh boy, did the Titans come through for everybody here in Nashville with a huge victory with the Dolphins. But I know that high that you're on, and if you want to keep it, then I need to tell you about my people at Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with that experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Now, I said hi. I meant to say excitement, people. Excitement and energy. If you got that excitement and energy from the game last night and you want to keep it, you go to Cool Springs MD. And their services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. So there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. Men, what are you waiting for? Get Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
When the mistakes happened in the fourth quarter, felt like your backs were against the wall. How did you find the will to push this team forward to get the W?
Yeah, I mean, starting off a drive just on a bad pitch like that and just handing it back to them, I know, not doing us any favors, but, it shows our perseverance and our ability to just go out there and just put it behind us and put together 2 2-minute drives there in the last 4 minutes. I mean, that's what it's all about, baby. I'm just so happy for the guys.
That was Will Levis post-game last night, and D-Mase and I were just talking about it. Willy Donick joins the program. That Will Levis, I mean, he needs to learn how to slide, but you cannot deny that Will Levis has the sort of competitiveness that you simply just cannot coach, the kind of competitiveness that you don't see very often.
Oh, no
It's
question
special.
about it. So I think
Yeah.
it's just going to be a matter of him picking the spots, learning when to use it, how to harness that. But it's a strength, right?
Yeah.
Overall, I think you like what you're doing there. I do think you'll hear Mike Vrabel say periodically that you got to watch out when you're taking on a guy like Jalen Ramsey, But
He folded Jalen Ramsey up like a pretzel.
He did. It's infectious, like you said.
Yeah.
It does jolt the team a little bit. And I love how he overcame the early screw up. Right, that could have been a snowball. I've seen guys snowball the other way. And at that point in the game, you're saying, man, I don't know if they have any answers here. They can't run it very well. So it was one of the more out-of-nowhere type of games that I've seen. But that's what we talked about yesterday, right? You just in this league, there's always a game or two like that. Now, that's the biggest underdog to win all year. But I think if you look every week on the NFL ledger, you'll see a game where you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And they were the unexpected last night, so good for them.
And I'm trying to pull up this stat. Before last night, teams in the NFL, when trailing by 14 points with under 3 minutes to go, teams are 0-767.
Yeah.
Well,
go back to 2016, the last time that somebody won.
Now it's
down
not
14 with 3 to go.
That is crazy. But let's get into your thoughts on this. We'll hear from Mike Vrabel in less than 10 minutes at the podium. Phone lines driven by Wilson County, Honda.com, 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have a thought, Adam in Portland is on the line. What's up, Adam?
Hey, you guys have covered it. I think our quarterback, while still flawed, he's still young, quite studly last night. And Steve McNair used to do the same thing. He would make a throw or something, and you would go, God, how did he do that? And then, if there was 2 minutes left, that we were getting to the end zone, we were figuring it out. So, yeah, I see a lot of the same things. I was wanting to address, because I haven't heard anybody talk about him much, but Tajae Spears, man, he is slowly, quietly becoming a monster. He is always around when the quarterback needs somebody to dump the ball off to. He's sneaky strong, very fast, and I think he's underrated of how good of a draft pick he was. Especially getting him in third round like that. He is a good player. I think when Derek moves on, I think we're going to be really set at that position.
Yeah, thank you for your call, Adam. Tajae Spears had a heck of a game last night. I wanted to see what he could do in the passing game, and that was really, I think, his first explosive game in the passing game that he's had.
Yeah, and this is what this is why when I'm looking at the game and I say some of the things that I say in regards to the running game and Derrick Henry, it's for a reason. It's not to diminish what Derrick Henry does for this offense, but it's knowing that you have someone else that can do something different.
You have another option.
And that can help you in a way that the NFL is geared more toward. A guy that's shifty, a guy that's quicker, a guy that can hit that hole and go, a guy that can catch passes out the backfield. He's the type of guy that can do it, and for some reason, well, I'm not going to say for some reason, I know why people are so hesitant, because Derrick's been doing it for so long, and he's been so great at it, and it's we can't get away from who we were. But it's reminiscent of, we had to fight that with Eddie. We had to fight that at getting out of that run first, give it to Eddie all the time mode. And when we finally, set up some playmakers on the outside and everything else, it was easier for us to sort of transition. Not that Eddie wasn't a part of the offense, because he still was, but we had other options now. The Titans have other options, and fans got to get a grips to that. They got to get a hold of that, because no longer Derrick Henry is going to be Derrick Henry. Whether he rushes a lot of yards, the remainder of the season or not, he's still going to be a focal point of this offense. Defenses are still going to prepare for him. But when you have somebody like Tajae Spears, the way the NFL has trended, there's a reason why Philadelphia is in the shambles they're in right now.
They don't have a run game.
They don't have the running game to match what they do passing-wise. Buffalo, same thing. The Titans, they need to use Tajae Spears more. I'm not saying diminish Derrick Henry, but Tajae Spears is today's NFL. You can survive with Derrick Henry, but if you want to take that next step, you got to have somebody like Tajae to go along with Derrick Henry. So I'm not saying throw Derrick Henry to the pastures. I'm just saying let this young kid play. You ain't got nothing to lose now.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about is going forward. What's the usage looking like when you're a little bit more looking towards the future? And is Derrick Henry part of the future? That's a big, big decision they're going to have to make because they may want him back. He may want to be back, but then you got to do the whole running back. What's the guy worth? Is he willing to take less money than he's been making? Is somebody else willing to pay him more? He's been very solid this year. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff by any stretch. May not be quite what he has been, but then what does that look like next year? That's always the tough thing.
We'll hear from Mike Vrabel at the podium coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063 the game. And hey, in an effort to aid those affected by the tornadoes from this past weekend, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and the United Way of Greater Nashville have activated emergency relief funds. For more information on how you can donate, visit cfmt.org or thegamenashville.com. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, Mike Vrabel's up at the podium now.
And his opportunities here, and whether it's going after the fumble in Indianapolis or scrambling, and appreciate the level of competitiveness, and just realizing that those things that happen that maybe are negative aren't going to have any impact going forward. What's the situation require? What's the call? Where am I going with my read and my progression on this particular play? So, being able to process that and move ahead is critical.
How contagious is his energy and fire, and how important is it to maybe have that from that position, especially with the team where your team is?
Well, I think the energy and fire, is critical throughout, the roster and the staff and the organization, and just being able to, to do that. I think that, leadership from the quarterback position is always going to be, important. It's always going to be critical. Their ability to, rally and inspire a football team, obviously, it's a critical position. So, I think he'll continue to do that in his own particular way.
I think the physicality you played with early maybe helped set the tone for last night.
Oh, there was a lot of great individual efforts that probably, go unnoticed. A defense that's sitting on the sidelines that, probably isn't planning on going out for an extra point on the pick six. We got guys that are, battling to try to block an extra point, whether it's Nico or Weave or Arden, I think set the tone, and then ultimately blocking the next field goal, Danico or Kayvon, and sprinting 40 yards to tackle the running back on the 2-yard line in the red zone, which then forced them to run another snap, which they fumbled and we recovered. Danico at the end of the game, coming out of the stack and tackling, Ashane there on the side, which kept him in bounds and kept the clock running. Those things probably go unnoticed, and there's a lot of other ones as well. But those are the ones that stick out in my mind. So, you have to play this game, with a demeanor, with an attitude, with a willingness to play as hard as you possibly can, and not, and not think about, well, can I make the play or can I get there? You're going with the intent to get there.
Going into that game, was it something that you wanted to do as far as getting Tajae involved in the passing game, or was that just something that just kind of
Well,
evolved?
I think, we try, to get Tajae the ball, try to get Derek the ball, try to get Hop the ball, try to get Treylon and Chig. I mean, it's just kind of sometimes the way that the game goes, and we try to get him there, the ball backed up, and that didn't go very well. Liked some of the matchups. I thought that the catch on third down, was huge. Didn't convert, but and they, Tajae caught it, fumbled, got out of bounds, but the screen there at the end, was a big play to be able to go back to that and hit a screen to Tajae. So again, he's helped us, trying to get some conversions, and you saw that Will got it out of his hand and got it to Tajae, and he, cut up and got a first down, and that's, sometimes you have to do that and let players make a play as opposed to throwing it past the sticks and just saying, let's get the ball out of our hands and get it to a playmaker and see if they can tackle them.
He's leading the all-rookie running backs in yards from scrimmage. Is this usage, is that kind of what you envisioned when you guys selected him?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Again, having him be able to go in there in training camp and protect, I think, was the first thing. They have to, be comfortable with that. There you go. That's okay. Feliz Navidad. Spirit. No, you didn't. But I think, you start there so that you don't always have to, you can't free release him every time he's in there. That doesn't work, right? There, you have to stand in there and protect, and he showed that.
I think he's worked hard at understanding route craft and getting open and being able to, he's done a nice job catching the football. So, yeah, I mean, I think that the role that he's in now is kind of what we had envisioned, and that sometimes expands based on, the game and where we're at.
How good was it to see the way Harrell played last night, especially in the fourth quarter, 3 sacks?
Yeah, I thought that those guys competed. They battled, did some good things down in the red zone when we needed to, and we played a little bit of base. And his ability to transition from an end to an outside linebacker, and his versatility, and ran into a really nice stunt there where he went inside, picked, and drove and got the sack and was very active. And that was we need our best players to play good in order for us to win.
How critical was your open field tackling, especially in the secondary last night?
Well, I think it could have been better. I think that they've got some guys that are pretty fast, and I think we rallied and guys ran to the football, so the misses weren't probably as glaring. We fit up a couple of those runs just like we wanted to. They just kind of got the corner to us, and that probably led to a few double-digit drives. But I think all in all that tackled we could. Didn't have the top off ones.
As far as the team overall, I mean, playoff status probably doesn't change too much, but what's most gained, do you think, in terms of the long run for the team? What do you pick up most from a game like that?
Well, I think just that it can go in different directions. It starts out one way, and things aren't going great for you. You stick around, you make it close, you finish the half off real positive with a stop, and a field goal there to end the half, and playing the type of game that you want, and then mistakes happen, and you don't shut it down. You find ways to get stops, and the defense allowed us to do that. To be able to get those guys stopped in 3 plays and have our timeouts, and then get another stop again at the end when they need the field goal. So I would say very complimentary in all 3 phases, but then we are all everybody was able to overcome whatever mistakes that the other units made, and that's what a team's about, and I appreciate that about them.
Sean Murphy Bunny, one of those guys, he seemed like he dealt with some adversity and responded well to it at times too. How'd you assess maybe his?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the mentality that you have to have, especially playing corner. They throw it on you, they catch it, you come back and challenge and line up again and play, and that was what he did. And so you have to that's the only thing that you can focus on is moving forward, and how you're going to respond. And by playing a corner in this league, they're going to throw the ball, and if you get it caught on you just have to come back and keep working and keep challenging and have that resolve to finally make a play.
Will's running obviously adds a nice dimension, but I believe last week after the helicopter you talked about him being careful, and then he was throwing his shoulder around a couple different occasions yesterday. How do you kind of use that element to temper the injury risk?
I don't know. I think we're still trying to work on that. We showed them examples of quarterbacks sliding and using the rules to their advantage. I guess we'll have to show them examples of quarterbacks not sliding and getting the shit knocked out of them. So we're going to try the other way this week.
So, did you point to all the quarterbacks who are out? Half the league is down at this point.
It just, he knows it, and we all know it. We'll have to keep working on it, keep reminding them. But
when you guys really shoot yourself in the foot twice there at the end of the game, suddenly the odds are really stacked against you. What was the message on the sideline, and maybe what does it say about the resolve of your team that they stayed in it and then ultimately won the game?
Yeah, just I think to the leadership that we have out there, to the guys that just go and play the next snap and say, hey, we're going to need 2 scores, so we better get this first one quick, and they did. We hit a couple plays, and I felt like they were just excited about being in that football game, and the whole plan was obviously to put them in a game and find a way to win it late, and we did that for the most part, and then had to kind of go off script there a little bit, and which was great to see us be able to move the ball quickly in a no huddle situation, and then get the 2-point conversion, and then get the stop on defense, and go back down and score. So those are all the situations that we cover. Those are things that we talk about. We're able to keep our timeouts, which really gives you an advantage when you can get them stopped there and use your timeouts and use the clock.
You talked about over the last couple of years a lot of times how this team is not really suited for the big drop back game, but then when you had to have it in the fourth quarter last night, it was there and you were able to use it and be successful. How much of it is that a sign of growth?
Well, I think that we've always done, we've been capable in those 2-minute situations. And, when I talk about drop back, I mean, you can look and study even the Miami Dolphins. When you look at their first and second down passing, it's not a drop back passing game, right? It's play action. There's play passes, and they do a nice job. It's not like 5 guys are out in the route, and that's, I guess sometimes that when you go to that mode, it makes it difficult. So I think that we were able to marry, even on the big one to hop, we were able to kind of chip our way out and get some layers and get some levels. So I think that's the balance of, being able to move the football down the field, but also be able to protect and help protect the quarterback and the offensive line when, those there's good front there, they're active front, very, good rushers. And so, there's a good balance there.
How your new punter did?
Yeah, I thought Ty was great. Did a nice job with his hang time, with his location, operated with the snap, and, seemed confident and, really liked being around him, and he was excited to be a part of the victory.
Was completely healthy last night, or was it just coach's decision?
He's been, Bronny's been, Bronny battles and competes, and just late in the season and trying to get some a bigger bodied in there and just try to rotate through with Calvin and help him out there. And Bronny was back in there late, had a huge block on the screen, and did some nice things. So. Just kind of where we're at, wanted to take a look at Calvin, and had communicated that with Bronny there, during the week.
How'd Calvin do?
He was good. I mean, he had some good plays, and, again, had some plays we'd like to have back with everybody, especially, just working some combinations in a run game and needing to be better there.
Pre-snap penalties continue to be an issue with some repeat offenders at this point. What's the disconnect there? Like, what has to happen to clean that up?
I don't know. I don't jump off sides, so when you have an opportunity to ask the players, you could ask them where the disconnect is with the music, the crowd noise, the cadence that we use at practice. But I don't, I jumped off sides plenty when I was playing, so I don't know. I'm with you. It's like, it's frustrating to see whether they're locked in and, in their assignment or a pass rush. And we went through the week where it was the third down escapade, and, we just, not to, it's just, I guess, just frustrating that those are mistakes that, we can't make and overcome 2nd and 15 or 1st and 15.
Even though he shouldn't have been in the area, when you watch the film, was there any interference with Gare as he was trying to field the punt there? Did you see?
Yeah, it just need to get some clarification on the, being able to grab the guy's arm or play through the returner, once the ball hits. So, again, in traffic, that's still not a decision, that we want to make. There's times where, you get a favorable hop in the middle of the field, and, there's no, we're not in traffic. And again, we've seen those where, you square it up and, you get a good bounce and you can take it, coming over there from the side and not being, that's just not a favorable look for us to want to field that punt off the bounce there. And those are times where you could see the players or returners take the bounce and get some yards. That would be a situation where we would not want to do that.
How critical to get that win and get over that hump? I mean, I would assume as the losses pile up, it becomes a mental hurdle.
We weren't really talking about that. It was more about what we needed to do. It wasn't, we haven't won on the road. It was like, there's a lot of reasons why you don't win, and it's all the mistakes. And, those are still there, unfortunately. We made it harder on ourselves than what it had to be. But we made more plays in the end when we had to in the critical situations.
I think it's the first time you scored over 16 points on the road in like a calendar year. I mean, that despite the mistakes, that's still big growth for your team.
Sure. Yeah, being able to go down there and score in the red zone, and our ability to force the number one offense in the red zone to kick field goals was the factor in the game, even all the mistakes that we had. When you get down to, looking at why we won, we forced the best red zone team in the league to kick field goals.
I noticed that Jeffrey made the trip and kind of stayed as kind of hype man in warm-ups. Is that something he wanted to do?
Yeah, that was something that he wanted to do, and I'm, trying to recognize his role and his leadership and being, willing to be in it on the sidelines and be engaged and support in any way that he can while he's out.
It's always an element of keeping the faith. When a team does something that's not been done in forever, with those winning in the 3 minutes down 14 in regulation, is there a jarring feeling like, whoa, we can do?
I think you probably need, you talk about confidence. Like, we go through this all the time when we ask, well, are they confident? Well, if you can go out and you do it, that's how you build confidence. And whether that's in practice or, most importantly, the games, you have to be able to see those things and have small victories. And, so for our football team, I think it's a huge opportunity to see us compete, to find ways to win the game, and as opposed to finding ways to lose it. Trying to eliminate some of the bad football still, the things that are going to get you beat. But they stuck around, and we were the ones that made the plays in a critical situation.
Along the lines of confidence, Chig Okonkwo, talking to him, a lot of the work he's putting in after practice, he feels like that's giving him confidence. From your perspective, especially after seeing what he did last night, how do you respond to that, or how do you think that's the case?
Yeah, again, he's the one that puts the work in, and Tony works extremely hard with that group, and we ask Chig sometimes to chip, but we also try to find him the football down the field. I thought the screen was well designed. I thought it was well blocked. I thought he did a nice job, versus the press, to be able to push him off, come back. I thought Dylan did a nice job, and we got to keep finding ways to get Chig the football. Had a contested catch there that caught in traffic and got hit. Picked up another first down and late in the game. So and the more that he can help us, the better.
Aside from the plays DeAndre makes on the field, how big of an impact has he made maybe on Will, maybe in players around him in that role?
Well, I think that would be best discussed with Will, but I know that having a guy that you feel like you can go to when you have to have it probably is a good feeling. And Hop's done that. He's come up big. He's got a good feel of where to be on certain routes, and his timing and his ability to make plays on the sideline. Very sure-handed, and so I think he's helped us in a lot of regards. But I think that Will may be able to express that better than I can in what he means to the quarterback.
From a perspective, like knowing how explosive that offense is, Does that change a lot of the things and the keys that you have to focus in on going against, guys like Waddle and Hill?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to sit there and, be pressed and, know that the ball's going to go over your head or going to go, that's where it's going. Try to defend from the top of the numbers to the top of the numbers. Did that sometimes. Didn't sometimes. They, transitioned and threw a few balls outside, which that's what they were going to, said that if they do that, then, give them credit and we'll go from there. But we know what it was going to look like if they were able to hit the first read inside and, make them drive it. Make them drive it and then find ways to get the drive stop was ultimately what we kept preaching to everybody on defense the entire week, whether that was on third down, which we did, fourth down there at the end, and then the few times in the red zone. So I think they embraced that and really executed that well.
Burks had a shot at that long pass, incompletion. Or I guess I should say, did you think that he might have been able to pull that in?
Every time I think the attitude is every time that the ball's in the air, we got to expect that it's ours. So whether it's that one or another play to DeAndre or another pass, that's the mentality that we have to take is that, we have to go make a play on the football until we don't. So, we'll keep, working those and trying to hit them and help us, gain momentum and critical field position, down the field.
Why is it so hard to get him going?
There's a lot of factors. I think just where the football goes and, we tried to throw him the screen out there early in the game and, they defended it. We didn't block it particularly well and threw a shot to him, so he's running hard and working and, the ball went somewhere else.
Hopkins, what, in your opinion, what about his skill set makes him so unique and effective?
I think he's got great body control. I think he's got, Hop's got a good understanding of the game and just, a feel for setting things up and attacking leverage and being patient when he needs to be patient, coming out of breaks when he needs to come out with a certain pace and, he's seen all different coverages. He's seen everything, and whether that's the ability to come back on the back shoulder or find holes or seams in the defense.
What's maybe your challenge to players? I guess Mike coming off an emotional win on a short week to kind of forget about it and now focus on Houston.
Yeah, focus on winning at home in the division, and every week is a new challenge. And they went on the road and didn't have their best performance. I'm sure they'll be ready for us like they always are. And, we're going to have to, get healthy. We'll have to get prepared and, build towards Sunday.
With the time that things pretty buttoned up on special teams for you, I don't think you gave up much at all in the return game.
I think we can always cover kickoffs better. I thought we punted well. I thought Colton Dow continues to really factor on the punt game, beat the double vice a few times, and we're able to cause some fair catches. And a guy like Roger McCrary that's chasing receivers around and goes out there and plays on a punt return. Those are guys that we need more guys like that. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
All right, there you go. That was Mike Vrabel at the podium. He touched on one thing. We just asked about special teams there. I thought punting was pretty solid. But there was an obvious snafu on special teams yesterday. Eric Gare muffing the punt. Want to get into what D-Mase saw there and special teams as a whole coming up next. We'll also go back into your phone since it is a Titans Tuesday, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
What's going on, everybody? I need to tell you about our partners in sports. And I'm excited to tell you that they're launching their new introductory promotion available to all new customers here in Tennessee. The No Danger First Wager, people. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First Wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000. Plus, Zen Sports has launched a new VIP program for the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you might qualify, then listen up, people. The VIP program is by invite only. So, if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So, what are you waiting for? Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
When you watch the film, was there any interference with Gare as he was trying to field the punt there?
Yeah, just need to get some clarification on the, being able to grab the guy's arm or play through the returner, once the ball hits. So, again, in traffic, that's still not a decision, that we want to make. There's times where, you get a favorable hop in the middle of the field and, there's no, we're not in traffic. And again, we've seen those where, you square it up and, you get a good bounce and you can take it, coming over there from the side and not being, that's just not a favorable look for us to want to field that punt off the bounce there. And those are times where you could see the players, the returners, take the bounce and get some yards, that would be a situation where we would not want to do that.
Yeah, definitely not a favorable look for the Titans with Eric Garror trying to field that punt off of the bounce. Fourth quarter, tie game. They just blocked a field goal, so I'm thinking, man, Titans special teams, what a 180 from last week, where special teams cost you against the Indianapolis Colts. You block a field goal. I'm thinking, all right, Tom Quinn has arrived. Tie game, fourth quarter. Eric Garror muffs the punt, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, here we go. Here, the Titans are going to turn around and tighten themselves. They're going to throw this game away off of a bunch of silly mistakes. But Willie, you brought up a fair point yesterday, and I'm with you that I was after that muffed punt. I was looking for the flag because there was clear contact made with the Dolphins defender and Eric Garror's arm. He kind of swatted his arm down there. D-Mase, if you could walk us through the rule there and the muffed punt from Eric Garror. And it was funny seeing Jeffrey Simmons on the sideline. They panned to him, and he's looking just in shock, like, oh, my gosh, did that just happen? I think we were all kind of feeling that as well.
Yeah. Now, listen, rules could have changed, but to my understanding, you are protected when the ball's in the air. So if you call a fair catch,
the returner
is. So when you call for a fair catch, they got to allow you to catch the ball. They've changed the rules now. You got to, well, I guess they really always had the rule. You had to give a guy at least a half a step to catch the football before you made contact with them. The rules may have changed now because of concussions and all that. You don't see too many returners getting ran through, like they were back in the day. But I think once the ball hits the ground, and I could be wrong on this, but I think once the ball hits the ground, you lose that protection.
So they can make contact with the returner.
That's why when the ball hits the ground, the returner is telling everybody to get away from it. And he is taught, like, if you can't make a clean catch after the bounce, just let it go. Mm-hmm. Because I think now that protection of you not being able to be touched, it goes away. And, that's why if the ball hits the ground as a defender, I'm allowed to push the returner into the ball. Mm-hmm. Because the ball's it's a live ball in a sense, but it's not like it hits the ground and I get to recover it as a punt team and it's my ball. It's a live ball, meaning like those protections go away now. If you're around the ball, I can push you into the ball, whatever. And if you touch it or anybody else touch it on your team, I can pick it up. And now I can I don't know if you can you can advance a muff. But if somebody hits it, if it touches somebody, you can pick it up.
Right.
And I think that's what happened on that one. He did grab his arm. I think it was so quick that maybe the refs didn't see it, and you can't go back and look at replay to make a call. But I think, too, once the ball hits the ground, you lose that protection of nobody can touch me.
Yes. So
that's why Vrabel didn't make a big fuss about it, I think.
Right. But it was interesting. He gave an interesting answer when Terry McCormick asked about that play, because some of you may have noticed. I wondered that myself. I don't tell anybody. I videoed it off the TV. Just that a couple of those still shots.
Oh, Willy, NFL police is going to come for you.
I just asked the question. Is that legal? What he did, because it seemed to me. Now let's set aside, as Mike Vrabel said, that when there's traffic like that, the risk reward is not worth it. You might as well just get out of the way. What he's trying to do, it looks like, is I'm going to save us from maybe having this ball bounce out at the 3, and if I can just snag it and go out of bounds at the 11 or 12, look, it bounced up. I think I can take it. I'm not sure if he didn't see the guy right next to him, but what he's trying to do is just grab it. He's near the sideline, so if he bobbles it, he can probably guide it out of bounds, right? And again, bad decision. Mm-hmm. But the guy does grab his arm. Mm-hmm. Like, he makes it impossible for him to catch it with two hands. So from what I'm told, once the ball bounces, it cannot be, by rule, kick-catch interference.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is that really fair? Like, is this one for the competition committee, right? Should you have a fair opportunity to field the ball without getting held like that? Or like you said, D-Mase, pushed into the ball. Mm-hmm. I just wonder about that. I don't like. There's case things that come up. Like NHL is famous for them. There's so many that come up like, well, I've never seen it quite like that.
Yeah.
And they end up talking about it all summer and try to figure out, do they need to add something, so they call it a case book. So I don't know. I felt bad for him because number one, it was a terrible moment in the game.
Yeah.
But the announcers never mentioned that he does get his arm grabbed by the Dolphins player.
But I think, again, and I could be wrong on this, I think once the ball hits the ground, those rules don't apply anymore.
And I think that's what, if you saw the interaction between Mike Vrabel and Eric Garror on the sideline, I think that's what Eric Garror was telling him was they grabbed my arm, and to which Mike Vrabel responded, I don't
give a bleep.
Care.
You got to get away from the ball.
Yeah.
Don't put
Don't
yourself in that
touch
situation.
it.
Exactly.
And
It's not worth the extra 6 yards or whatever you're going to get.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the two sides of it. Of I was confused about why they were allowed to do that, but also at the same time, Eric Garror, get away from it.
Yeah.
Don't touch the football. And you even saw Tom Quinn on the sidelines, irate that he even put himself in the position to make contact with the football.
Because he just came up with a big stop. You're going to get the ball back. But you know what? It led to a very dramatic ending that we'll not forget anytime soon. So it was a great play.
But then again, we got to look
Set
at
up chaos.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
Now, the special teams had its blunders, but I think the biggest play of the game, if you look at the game, the biggest play was the blocked field goal.
The blocked field goal
that
was huge.
huge because now the Titans are down 10 points or 9 points, and they need more. They need to score. They need 2-point conversion, and they need to get the ball back. So that blocked field goal was huge. It didn't seem huge, when it happened, but as you started to watch the game started getting closer. Titans go for 2. Now it's becoming a game, and you can go back to that blocked field goal. I don't know who blocked it. But
I think was it Autry that blocked it?
May have been Autry.
It may have been Autry, which means he had a hell of a game.
It was Autry.
It was Autry.
It was his tip of his career, by the way, I believe.
He had a hell of a game.
He had a great game.
And he's had a really good game the past 3 games. He showed up. But that blocked field goal, I know special teams did have their blunder, but I think that blocked field goal was huge for the Titans.
I thought the punter was very good. He different type of punter than Stonehouse Molstar. Stonehouse is pretty unique, but he had some great hang time, and they had no way of returning any of his punts. So the net result was pretty good.
He bailed him out on that. One of them where the game was tight, and they needed a good punt. And I'm like, man, is this kid going to get it off? Young kid, in this situation. And he kicks a high ball, and I think he pinned him down with the 20, 25, somewhere around there. But it was just him getting the ball off, getting a good kick under those situations.
What did you make of the offensive line last night?
One of my biggest things yesterday going into the game was whether or not they won the game. And it's great that they won. And part of me was thinking, well, worst case scenario, if they go down and kick the field goal and you lose by 1, you're with the Giants winning and some of these other teams that have been losing, you still maintain, and the Bears have been winning. All of a sudden you're in the top 5, but yet you could still sit there and say, man, you're really competing here. You're still playing hard. But it's great to have the winning feeling, so I'm not apologizing for the win at all. It's not Mike Vrabel, or that's a great notch in your belt if you're Will Levis and all that stuff.
Especially with the way that they played.
Oh, yeah.
To play so many good teams close and still fall short, that has got to just wear away at a locker room.
But to me, the very important thing is it's one thing for DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry to lead you and Danico Autry to lead you. That's great, but those are the guys that are probably on the back 9 of their career. So I wanted to see what can you take out of there that you can take into next year. Obviously, Levis's performance for sure. Spears, big breakthrough. I saw Harold Landry getting better last night.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that comforts me a little bit if I'm Rand Carthon. And then there's Duncan, if you're left tackle. Is he the best? No, he's not going to turn into one of the greatest of all. He's not Brad Hopkins, but I thought the pass protection anyway was fairly reasonable after a certain point of the game. I thought they were going to collapse like they had in the previous 2 games where they went down to Florida, down to the Bucs, where they just could not protect them. They had no chance of running offense. Same kind of thing in Jacksonville. But as the game wore on, all of a sudden Levis had time, and he's able to get the ball down the field and find some things. Now, they didn't run block nearly as well.
No, run blocker was
so they got a
horrendous.
long way to go there.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned, particularly with Duncan. Do you have a piece there? Like Chigakonkwo took a step forward, right? And there's like, wow, all of a sudden maybe there's hope that he's coming around a little bit. These are the things I think that are the most important things from now until the end of the season.
Well, I got to see more from Duncan. That offensive line, from a run standpoint, blocking, they were not good.
Brutal.
The pocket got collapsed too many times.
And Will Levis bailed himself out of a few of
He bailed
those.
himself out a few times. So, yes, they got the win. But, again, like Shannon Sharp said, I'm not going to accept in a win what I don't accept in a loss. That offensive line, I mean, they are who they are. You just hope that they stay healthy moving forward. They don't need any more injuries to that offensive line. But, you know, they did what they had to do when that time came. Like those last two drives, the offensive line did just enough to make sure that they put themselves in a position to win that game.
They've got to cool it with the false start penalties.
Yeah,
well, that was
goodness.
bad.
Yes.
But I'll look at the positive. One of the examples that I saw, like how often do you? I mean, we've seen it this year. The game in London, Malik Willis was sacked. How many times? He was only
5 times on 6 snaps.
Oh,
that has to be an NFL
Right.
record.
And some of that was on him, but for the play, and Ryan Clark broke it down after the game. I thought it was interesting. The deep cross to DeAndre Hopkins. That's a play where you need time for him to get across the field.
You need extra time.
You need extra time, and they gave him the time. A few weeks ago, I don't think they could have run that play. They had no chance of having enough time to do that play.
I think, and again, because when you're talking about this game, you gotta talk about both sides of it. Whereas the Titans did the things that they needed to do necessary to win the football game, especially toward the end of the game. I think Miami, they sort of, I'm not going to say they gave him the game, but they played conservative on defense.
Two consecutive run plays on that final possession.
Offense, they played too
defense
conservative.
didn't get a whole lot of pressure.
Exactly.
They tried to get pressure.
They tried to get at times, but other times they just expected, I'm telling you, they expected, because that offensive line is so bad, they expected we can get to you with just rushing the passer, not blitzing, and we'll play coverage on the back end. Well, when you're playing coverage on the back end and you're playing off coverage, you're giving everybody free releases. And if you don't get to that quarterback, he's going to make you pay. And Will Levis made them pay because he got that extra second to throw the ball on those deep crosses or those shallow routes, because they were playing too laxed in the secondary. They took for granted that they're the Miami Dolphins. They're this explosive team. When they wasn't reading the tea leaves here. They wasn't playing. They were not at the same game that the Titans were at. The Titans were like, this is a dogfight, and we're going to – Miami was sort of like, at times was like, okay, yeah. Like that. I don't understand, like – and the Titans do it sometimes too when they're ahead and late in the game. Why are y'all playing this like prevent defense?
Yes, it drives me crazy.
That's why sometimes you almost wish the game is close. So you have to really play instead of sit, because once you get comfortable, you're comfortable, and it's hard to get you out of that. And Miami got comfortable, and the Titans made them pay for it. Now the Titans went and took some stuff. Exactly, Titans went and took it like they were supposed to, but also on the flip side, it's like Miami, there were some things that Miami did that's why when we first started the show, I'm like, McDaniel, he may be a good coach, but there were some questionable things he did in that game that contributed to the loss. Now, again, the Titans took it when they needed to take it, but there are some things questionable that he did as a play caller and head coach that you sit and scratch your head like, why aren't you being more aggressive?
Right into your phones on this. Coming up next, Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. They join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and D-Mase at Teddy's Tavern this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. for our NFL pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 15 matchup against the Texans and give you the latest updates before the game. Our NFL pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Beast Unleashed. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. 102.5 The Game has teamed up with Mookie Betts' AIM Foundation. Is it AIM Foundation? AIM Foundation?
Yep.
Okay. To help underprivileged members of our community. You can email bids in now at enteryourbids@gmail.com for either Mookie Betts t-shirts, hats, miniature Dodger baseball bats, Mookie Betts autographed baseballs, or a game day package that includes a $500 Southwest gift card, a Mookie Betts jersey, Dodgers and Dad Gang hats, 2 tickets to a Dodgers game in Los Angeles, and a photo op with Mookie Betts. Email bids in now at enteryourbids@gmail.com. That's a pretty good gift.
It's unbelievable. I really
What is
hope.
going to have Mookie on?
Well, his bowling event is Friday.
Okay.
So we're going to try to have him on on one of the shows on Friday for sure. But we'll have to ask him about his new teammate, Mr. Ohtani.
With the strangest contract I've ever seen.
Freddie Freeman, Ohtani, and Mookie
His
Betts.
contract is awesome, though.
That's pretty crazy.
His contract is awesome.
$700 million?
Yeah, but no, it's deferred. So from
$680 million.
33 to 40 something, he's going to average like $68 million a year.
Him and Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, but from next year to like 2031, he just averaged $2 million per year.
2034 to be exact.
2034,
and he'll
it's
be
like he get $2
48
million
years
per
old.
year.
He'll be 48 years old when he gets all of his money in full.
So think about the circus and the show that's going to be at Dodger Stadium with Ohtani. So this bid package that Diana, Mookie's mom, of course, Mookie grew up, for those that are newer to town, grew up here in Nashville, went to Overton High School. So they put this package together where you get $500 to fly out there, and then once you get there, and I've done it before, I've seen it happen, Diana will roll out the red carpet, you'll meet and greet, you'll get on the field for batting practice, all of these things. So if you want to go see Dodger Stadium, which is one of the greatest venues in baseball for sure, get in on those bids. Get in on where do you go again for the bid?
You go to enteryourbids@gmail.com, or this is just a typo. I think it's enteryourbids@gmail.com.
Okay, but do you go to our website
you
can go to our website to find it?
I'm sure you can. I have not double-checked.
I'll just double-check.
But I'm sure you can.
This is going to be up all week, so you're going to get your bids in. That people know how to do it strategically here.
Wait until the last.
I'm not saying. But that is one option you can do. But you're going to have until Friday to put it together. But I would. It's a great cause.
Yeah.
They always go at Christmas time and find some organizations through the AIM Foundation that really need some help.
Really
this time
cool.
of the year. Yeah.
Really cool. So that is enteryourbids@gmail.com this is a fantastic opportunity and really cool experience. But I want to get into your phones, your thoughts and takeaways from the Titans' win in Miami, which was not on my bingo card. I was being a Debbie Downer about it yesterday. Justin in Greenbrier, Texan, says, I didn't watch most of the game. I was honestly just afraid to. The Titans played with energy and toughness that I haven't seen much this season. The muffed punt, though, y'all, come on. Special teams 101, get away from the ball when there are defenders in the area. That was frustrating. Just don't touch it.
Absolutely.
Clear the area.
We preface everything by saying that. I just felt that. I feel like you should have a fair shot. And I don't know what all the nuances of the rule should be, what is fair, because I know you can't just slam into a guy.
Nah.
You know,
I mean, but once it hits the ground, it's a lot. Once it hits the ground, you lose all those protections, I believe, as a returner. So you can, in that situation, grab a guy or touch a guy, because if the ball hits the ground, it's rolling around. If I bump into you and you touch the ball, it's not interference on me. You should have got away from the ball.
Yeah.
You lose that privilege of interference once it hits the ground.
But they did play with toughness and excitement and energy that I questioned in some games that we've seen this season of just where is the energy on this team? Another texter texts in, says the Titans won that game, not Coach Vrabel. He stood on the sideline with his awful smirk of disappointment for most of the game, and he was equally surprised when they won. He had no part in that accidental win last night.
Accidental? No. I mean, they went out and they did the things on defense they needed to do, which means they kept the game close. They kept things in front of them. Now, as a Miami fan, you can say, well, we didn't have our best player, and you're right. And which, makes me think even more, this kid needs to, he needs to seriously be in the talk of MVP because that was a totally different team when he went out of the game.
Tyreek?
It was yes. From a play call standpoint, McDaniel sometimes didn't know it seemed like he didn't know what he was doing. Tua seemed flustered. Then when Tyreek comes back in, things magically start working again. Then he goes back out, and they go back to doing nothing. But the Titans eventually went and took that game. But again, and I said this earlier, Caroline and Willie, when you were with the Preds at Skate, this is Tim Kelly's win. This is Will Levis's win. This is Shane Bowen's win. Only thing I give Vrabel this go around is going for two, deciding to go for two. Now it doesn't. Again, we talked about it. This win doesn't change what I think about Vrabel. It doesn't. I think he's a good coach. I didn't think he needed to be fired, but I think his feet need to be held to the fire considering what has happened last season and what was happening this season. But this game, if you look at the way it was played from a play call standpoint, this was Tim Kelly. This was a Tim Kelly. This is where he earned his money. Just like had the one game last season. Green Bay.
Downing?
Yeah, Todd Downing had that one game, and everybody praised Todd Downing, and rightfully so.
For a couple hours.
Exactly, for a couple hours.
Yep.
But everybody praised him rightfully so because that was such a well-called game. Tim Kelly did the exact same thing this game. They did not chase. They did not panic. They stayed within their offense, and when the big shots was there to take, they took it.
I'm interested to see what Tim Hasselbeck saw, his takeaways from those games, what he saw from Will Levis last night. Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, will join us coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, which today is Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. Predators in action tonight. Puck drop against the Philadelphia Flyers at 7 p.m. All of your pregame coverage starts at 6 p.m. right here on 102.5 and 106.3, The Game. Joining us now is Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, who normally joins us at noon on Tuesdays. With Mike Vrabel, had to shift things around a little bit. So appreciate your flexibility today, Tim. And just like we all expected, Titans win into Miami with the number one offense in the NFL and won it. No, I'm just kidding. Did not expect that in the slightest, especially when the Titans kind of gift-wrapped 21 points to the Dolphins last night off of turnovers. But looking at all of that, the turnovers, the fact that Derrick Henry only got 34 rushing yards last night, I would have thought that would have been a blowout. But the Titans win at 28-27. Tim, watching that game last night, what do you think was the difference for the Titans?
I mean, really, it was just the finish. I mean, I think that hanging in there in the finish was ultimately the difference, because you're right, when you look at the stats and you look at like how the game went, like I think ultimately, like, they really hadn't done things in that game last night to help them win that they had done, in other games throughout the season where they had lost. Now, saying all of that, I do think that, the way the defense played, I thought was outstanding. You mentioned kind of the lack of, rush yards for Derrick Henry, or you think about like how it went for Miami. Look, they don't have anybody rush for over 100 yards, so which is something, and I know they play multiple backs, but like something that normally happens. Tua didn't throw a bunch of touchdowns. They obviously gave up a few big plays. Didn't have Tyreek Hill for part of that game, obviously, but like. I just thought that defensively they did a good job, and then they just kind of, hung in there. And I have to say, I guess after the pitch behind Derrick Henry, which, Miami scores quickly after that, I thought the game was over. Like, I thought it was like, hey, like the doors are going to get blown off them at this point. And, I think that was probably the feeling for a lot of people. So I think just being able to hang in there, not panic, and just keep fighting, that's a good sign. And really, I guess it would have been like 3 minutes and 50 seconds left in the game. Like, they're still down 14 points. Like, that's nearly impossible to come back in that environment, and they did.
Before last night, teams down 14 points with 3 minutes left. 767. So, nearly crazy. Impossible. Yeah, absolutely crazy.
That's what I mean. And to that point, a little bit, not to get like, all analytics and that, and I didn't have the volume on for a lot of it, but like the going for two after the first touchdown.
Yeah.
Like
it's
that's
a trendy
the move
thing
now.
to do now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing to do now. And I will say this, I've never seen anybody win because of it until last night.
And, of course, obviously, it worked, and it was the reason why that game didn't go to overtime. So we can look back and say, well, that was a great decision. But in the moment, what did you make of Mike Vrabel's decision to go for two there?
Well, just because I've heard people talking about it, and I guess it's been years now, where I understand the reasoning, right? Like in that environment, the stat you just gave, Caroline, is exactly why you say, look, here's the deal. If we don't get it, we're going to go for two again. Because the likelihood that we're even going to score again is so small that, the likelihood of us winning, if we go for two and get it, changes drastically. I mean, that's essentially the thought process behind the math. So I completely understood it in the moment, and I just have never seen it actually work all the way with the second touchdown and then kicking the extra point for the win. So, look, I guess for now, anyone that's doubted it, like that example right there is the exact proof of, because here's what you want to do is you don't, score a touchdown, now you're down 27-26. Like, you're not going for two in that environment on the road in Miami. Like, I just don't think you are. You're going overtime. And so, look, I think the way Mike Vrabel played that was absolutely perfect.
We're talking with Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, discussing the Titans comeback win against Miami, 28-27. Caroline and I were talking earlier, Tim, about Will Levis's the emotions that he showed, and you know, Caroline was a little bit worried about that because, you know, you can get too high when you're an emotional player, but then at times you can get too low. So it can be a benefit, but then it can be detrimental to you and to the team. But I look at Will Levis and I say, you gotta allow him to play with the passion that he plays with, because he's the what I've seen now with this Tennessee Titan team. He's the spark plug. He's the energy guy. Yeah. He's the guy that's going to get people going. So you got to allow him to play that way, but also allow him to figure out, sort of like to hone that in and to make sure, you know, he doesn't get too low. But you can't try to stifle the energy that he plays with, because that's who he is as a player.
Yeah, I think everybody as a player, like, you need to be who you are. Now, it doesn't mean like you run wild in either direction, right? But I think that, look, if you're a fiery, passionate guy, and that's just like naturally in you, and it's authentic, then I think you have to be that. And there probably are times where, you know, you maybe are getting a little too high, and you have to be aware of that, or too low, and you need to be aware of that, and how your body language is maybe, you know, affecting the team in a certain way. But I think that if you're somebody that just naturally reacts to and plays with passion, then you have to allow it to happen. Look, a little bit like I think how you have to coach. Like when I see Mike Vrabel in his interactions, I'm like, he's being himself. Like that's how he is. You know what I mean? Go talk to the punt returner. What happened? Yeah, well, this is what I think about that. You know, like I just think that you need to be authentic and be yourself, because when that happens, the team trusts you because you're being true. And so, do I think that there are probably some times where you can say, yeah, but let's put some margins up on this a little bit, where, you know, you're not so wound up and fired up, like you aren't covering kicks, like you still are our quarterback, right? And so let's also keep that in mind. But I don't think that you try to take that away from him. I think you just try to say, like, hey, let's just make sure that we don't go outside of some of these boundaries.
Yeah, because to me, they have two great players on our offense, and that's Derrick Henry and D-Hop. And they're not where they used to be, but they are the consummate pros, the guys that go out and just do their job. They don't cause no fuss. They do their job, and guys follow behind that. But then guys still need that energy guy. Tyreek was the energy guy for Miami. When he left the game, all of it was gone. When he comes back in the game, the energy seems to pick up. I think Will Levis is that for the Titans, and he can be that moving forward. I want to touch on
to that point, and I think, and you would have a lot of experience as a player. I really think that it's important, because you can't have everybody wound up, right? You need to have some guys that you said are the spark, and the other guys that, you know, look, they're more of a calming presence. And I think that as soon as you can identify your quarterback and who your quarterback is and how he is, then I think that allows you to say, all right, well, like, these are good personalities to have around them. I think that is a very underrated aspect of the job of a general manager and a coach, to say, like, and I've used this example at times, like when I was at the Giants and they had all these huge personalities, you know, from like Michael Strahan and Osayu Minora and Antonio Pearson and Tiki Barber and Jeremy Shockey and Plexico Burris. Like, you needed Eli Manning to be like the guy that was unfazed at all times, because there were so many other big personalities. And see, I think that's just something that I believe is underrated and needs to be kind of handled when you are building a team.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to know. You have to have certain personalities that balance out other personalities, and then that a lot of times that usually leads to you having not only just a good locker room, but a good team out on the field. Now, Tim Kelly, I want to touch on this. I think he did a wonderful job. Now, Vrabel's going to get all the praise. We understand that because he's the head coach. But I think what Tim Kelly was able to do. He wasn't chasing points. He wasn't trying to play this game that Miami was playing. He kept the game the way he wanted it to be. And when he had an opportunity to win it, he called the plays to win games. And I don't think he'll get enough credit in this win. He deserves a lot of this credit.
Yeah, I thought, and especially when you think about this, you think about some of the bad plays in the game, right? The interception that on a screen is just kind of an unfortunate play. And not only is it a turnover, but leads, to score. And then you think about the turnover that leads to, on the pitch, like it's just bad execution by, quarterback and running back in terms of ball handling. So I think that part of what happens too, what I think is impressive, is you have some of these just kind of gut punch, brutal plays, and they can make you feel like, hey, you got to chase some stuff. I thought there was a lot of patience. There were certainly some shots called when they needed shots. They got big plays out of it. I think in terms of how, D-Hop was featured, I mean, honestly, even Okonkwo, like they're running wide receiver screens with him outside. Like I thought there was a lot of good stuff. And I think that, you probably have to feel like you have a lot of good stuff when you go play a team like Miami, knowing how explosive they are offensively. But I thought they did a great job with it, considering some of the kind of disastrous plays that had happened throughout the game.
Tim Hasselbeck is with us. Tim, one of the things I noticed when you watch Levis is, I mean, it's not just a strong arm. It's a uniquely strong arm, I think, the way he can get the ball down the field with a pretty quick release, sometimes even throwing without a full wind-up or whatever you want to call it. He's throwing off the back foot sometimes, but he can really put it down the field with a lot of zip on it. What does that do to open up other things on the offense? Because I don't know if I've seen a Titans quarterback who can do quite what he does.
Yeah, I'll relay that to my brother as soon as we're off here.
Okay, I apologize. Matt was a little older, when he was playing here.
Don't backtrack. Don't backtrack,
Willy.
Willy.
23, 24-year-old. I'm sure when he was that age.
It's not him, it's us.
Yeah.
I'm messing around. And truthfully, and look, you're right. He has a rare talent to throw. I would say this, in terms of guys, Kerry Collins had a huge arm. Had a huge arm. And so, I think there were times that, there'd be throws like he would make where you're like, yeah, not everyone can really do that. But what it allows you to do is this. You have to defend more of the field. It's just it is really that simple in terms of, defensive backs sometimes will be, backing up and then they kind of see static in the pocket and it'll settle their feet because they feel like, well, the ball can't get all the way out here. Or the ball from that hash can't get all the way out to this sideline. I think he has the ability, just as a gifted thrower, to attack areas of the field that, you typically, some guys can't attack. The other thing that he can do, and I think Matthew Stafford would be, the goal or the aiming point in terms of hey, if you could do the stuff that Matthew Stafford is able to do, that's special and it would change things. A lot of times when you see in-breaking routes and deep underneath coverage, the window is small. And many players, it would certainly be how I played, that happened, boom, I'm throwing it underneath. I'm checking it down. But guys that have the ability to throw the way Levis has the ability to throw, you can kind of just try to freeze that underneath coverage a little bit and then just fire something into a much, much tighter window. And so, look, you can throw into tighter windows. You can attack different areas of the field. And I think that you have to defend things differently because of guys that have the ability to throw that way.
All right, now, Tim, you're a contemporary of mine. I will bet you can remember this game when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There was a game in New England where it was 0-0, Patriots against the Dolphins, and the Patriots brought the guy with the snowplow out because it was a blizzard, and they cleaned off an area. I mean, there was no rule against it. The other team, Don Shula's going crazy, but the guy wipes it off and clears the area, and the kicker kicks it. and the Patriots win 3-0, and it was a great moment.
I remember
the play. I remember the play because the guy was on like work release from prison. He goes out there.
Yeah, he was.
And old Don Hasselbeck is on the field goal protection team.
Yes.
So he was out on the field for that play.
Okay. So that was, you could see why the game was 0-0, right? It's a blizzard.
Yeah.
In Foxborough. We're doing the Predators versus Canadians, so I didn't see much of the late window of games. So we get done with our game, we get on the bus, and I'm looking at the scores, and I see 3-0 Raiders, Vikings, and I'm like, was this in the old Metropolitan Stadium? Was there a blizzard I didn't know about? Could you believe in this day and age we had a 3-0 game in a climate-controlled environment like that?
I think it's like the first one ever, maybe. I forget the stat. It was some crazy number. Well, here's what happened. Josh Dobbs, obviously, was starting for Minnesota. He played really poorly. Jefferson gets hurt in the game because he kind of lays him out after, missing some time. And then Aiden O'Connell, wasn't his best. Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, he's heating him up, and they're getting nothing going because of that. And so, I think you would rather snow than you would have, some of these young or inexperienced quarterbacks out there trying to make it happen.
Good grief. Now, what's your take on the end of the Chiefs-Bills game? Because I see all the time, whether it's offense or defense, they put that blue line now in the last few years where you see the line of scrimmage, and there's constantly a hand on there, all the way over it, sometimes a foot, and it just, they never call it. I'm like, well, how do we know when to call it, when not? But so the timing of it was certainly controversial. So what was your take? Because the guy's foot was definitely on the blue line.
Yeah. So here's what I would say. Just a little insight in terms of, the first down line or the line of scrimmage line. Okay. And they always say, hey, that's not official. And it's not, because the reality is there is somebody in the TV truck and people that are very good at their job, but they're artificially putting it there of where they see the football. And you've probably seen some games sometimes where it's like 3 yards off, just because maybe there was a mistake made or something like that. So that line really is not even close to being official. It's basically, it's done by somebody in the TV truck and has nothing to do with the officiating, right? Same thing with the first down line. Now, they've gotten good at it, and so oftentimes it's right there. So that's just something to keep in mind when you see the line. Then I would say this. Look, he's lined up offsides. Kadarius Toney is lined up offsides. And when the official throws the flag, the ball hasn't touched Patrick Mahomes' hand yet. He doesn't know what the end result is going to be. He just sees somebody lined up offside. He's got to throw a flag. So I think that officials, by and large, they're going to give you some gray area. They are. But if it's egregious, you have to throw a flag. And it was in that environment. Now, I would say this. I've heard so many people, Mahomes went all over this about, let us play the game. I think that's total garbage. I think you need to call the game consistently. How do players know? Hey, so all of a sudden, the neutral zone changes because it's a close game with 3 minutes left? What? Illegal hands to the face is going to be called differently when there's 3 minutes left in a close game, or pass interference is different in a close. I just completely disagree with that. I think there needs to be consistency with how a game is being called all of the time, so that people know the rules and the parameters with which you can play.
Now, Tim, there was a play in this Titans game, and I've seen it called before, more so in college than anything, where the defensive linemen they moved in position. They sort of moved down the line. And the Titans player jumped off, false start. But they end up calling the Miami Dolphins for a illegal shift or something like that. My thing is,
delay of game was the call.
Yeah, it was a delay of game.
Defensive delay of game, yeah.
And I don't understand it because
my sense on that is that they simulated the snap, because stemming, you're not going to get it. But if you say hut 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 like as you stem, then that's a penalty. That's a delay of game.
But I don't think they gave an explanation. They just said it was delay of game because my thing is, well, okay, the offense can do these sudden moves. Like Tyreek was in one position, all of a sudden he just runs and then they hike the ball. And if the defense jumps off sides, it's
which happened.
It's like, nope, off sides. But the offense, to me, if I don't simulate the snap count, like saying something or clapping, that's how they get the college players, by clapping, then I should be able to make that move. As a defensive player, I shouldn't be called for delay of game. And if the Titans had done it, I would have said the same thing. I just don't think it was a good call.
Yeah, so here's what I think. I think that call was because the official heard something from one of the guys, which is why it's going to be a delay of game and not going to be, neutral zone infraction or encroachment or, anything like that. So, look, I agree with you. I think one of the things that has happened, especially in the college game with the claps and even, as teams are playing on the road, you see now the quarterback is lifting his leg and then you got a guard that's then signaling to the center. The snap count is a massive weapon for the offense, and so is motion. And it's that way for a reason, right? Like motion, especially with the way Miami uses motion, especially when you get Tyreek on the move and you get, off coverage. I mean, D-Mase, you've seen that. Some guys that stink getting off the press, like, dude, put them in motion. Like, that gets you a free run. So I think that, like, that's why the rules are the way they are. Look, a few years ago, it used to be, like, a defensive lineman, if he jumped in the neutral zone and the offense moved, like, it wasn't always – and it was one guy moved, it used to be that was an offensive foul. Like, they changed that, years ago, and now it's a defensive penalty. So, look, I think as much as they can create things that are better for the offense, they're going to continue to do it as long as it fits within player safety.
I feel like that has been called more in college and in the NFL this season than I've ever noticed it in the past.
Simulating the snap?
Defensive delay of game.
Yeah. Well, because I think that, I think defenses are trying to do certain things. But the other thing is this. I think defensive linemen naturally, they're different than offensive linemen. Like, offensive linemen are, like I've said this before, they're sensitive guys that, wore their T-shirts when they went to the town swimming pool. And the defensive linemen are like guys are always trying to stay out of trouble. You know what I mean? So they want to push the obvious.
I got to remember that one.
Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. Tim, appreciate you as always and appreciate your flexibility today. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.
I have to admit, when I was in the 7th grade and it was shirts and skins for basketball, some of the guys were looking at me going, you need to eat, man.
You need to be a shirt.
And I don't know which.
Can I be on the shirts?
I don't know which is better. Like, you need to stop eating, man, or you need to eat, man. It's both equally as embarrassing. All right, we'll react to what Tim Hasselbeck had to say there. Plus, yet another week where this player is really, for the most part, a non-factor. I was worried last week. I was worried the week before. I'm worried this week. We'll get into that coming up next and back into your phones. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
long pass, incompletion? Or I guess I should say, did you think that he might have been able to pull that in?
Every time I think the attitude is every time that the ball's in the air, we got to expect that it's ours. So whether it's that one or another play to DeAndre or another pass, that's the mentality that we have to take, is that, we have to go make a play on the football until we don't. So, we'll keep, working those and trying to hit them and help us, gain momentum and critical field position, down the field.
Why is it so hard to get him going?
There's a lot of factors. I think just where the football goes, and we tried to throw him the screen out there early in the game, and they defended it. We didn't block it particularly well, and threw a shot to him. So he's running hard and working, and the ball went somewhere else.
All right, there you go. That was Mike Vrabel on Treylon Burks. And TD tweeted out the Titans snap counts. Treylon Burks played 44 snaps, 64% of the snaps. Just to put that in perspective, DeAndre Hopkins played 43. Treylon Burks had 1 catch.
For 1 yard.
1 yard. And he got hit with the deep ball. And then, of course, it was an incomplete pass. Yet another week where Treylon Burks is a non-factor.
I still think it's an improvement because he was out there more and played more. So I'm hoping the next step is, okay, next week, let's take the small gains here. Like next week, maybe get involved a little bit earlier. And I did think on the deep ball, D-Mase, I thought there was an opportunity. I'd love to see him just go up and high point it a little bit more. But I feel like the more you play, the more you have a better chance of making plays like that. I still think I see rust. I still see rust.
I think because of what's happening, we're critiquing like every throw, every pass thrown in this direction because he doesn't get many thrown in this direction. I'm disappointed, and I'm not disappointed in Treylon. I'm disappointed in like some drops that he's had during the season, but I'm disappointed in that the coaching staff, at least from my vantage, they're not trying to make him a part of the offense. Listen, this is your first round draft pick. This is a guy that you've seen him make plays. You know what he can do. Yes, I understand that he's had some, he's been injured. But that's just stuff he couldn't help. I don't think he had like hamstring issues or anything. I think all of his injuries.
Concussion, the knee from Minnesota.
So they've been, things he just couldn't avoid. But when you explain it like that, it's like you're being dismissive as a head coach. At least from my standpoint, because I know how receivers feel. He doesn't. He doesn't care. He's the head coach. He's doing his thing. But as a head coach, you should be mindful of, okay, my guy needs to be involved. I can remember times, I'm not going to say which team, but it was like, okay, we need to get him involved because it's just things are going well, but he's one of our playmakers. We need to get him involved in the game because we may need him at the end of the game.
Right.
And we don't want him, again, to float. Not to say that I wasn't doing my job or anything else, but playing the receiver, you got to be a certain way. That's why I don't mind receivers being selfish because they don't get – it's like it's only one ball and it's 5 receivers or 3 receivers on the field, sometimes 4,
and
sometimes
you can get
5.
open on every single down.
You can get open on every down, but you don't get the ball. So I'm just disappointed. And he's not in a space, meaning Treylon Burks, that he can say anything. He can't say anything. And I don't expect him, and I'm not saying say anything as far as going to the media. I'm saying as far as going to the offensive coordinator, going to the quarterback, having talks with them like what's going on. He's not in a space to do that. But I am disappointed that, when you ask about Treylon Burks, we tried to get, we got him the ball on the screen. It wasn't blocked particularly well. And we took a shot down the field and, he's running hard and, he just, we just couldn't get. It's like that. No, that doesn't fly. He's your first-round pick. Your offense is better when you're allowing him to be a part of it. D-Hop is going to be D-Hop. He's going to do his thing. Just think let's say the Titans got into the playoffs somehow, somewhere. And all year, this has been the way this thing been going. Don't target Treylon, target Treylon. Don't target Treylon, he floating, all that. You get in the playoffs, and then it starts, same thing starts to happen. Now it becomes harder for you to pass because teams know now. I'm just going to double team him, and y'all ain't going to figure it out because y'all are not going to get it to the other guy because y'all so hell-bent on throwing it over here. You got to have these guys involved, these pass catchers. They got to be involved in the game. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot let a receiver float with his caliber. You can't. And they allow him to float too much. And when I say floating again, I don't mean that he's out there loafing. Because he's not. He's playing hard. But you're not involving him, like, purposely. Screenplay is great, but purposely call plays where set it up 3-by-1, and I'm the third guy in. Everybody else running off. Let me do what D-Hop do. Come underneath and catch a curl. Boom, and go. They don't do that for Treylon Burks, or it seems like they don't do that for Treylon Burks. They need to get him involved in the game, and they don't. And no one can tell me that he's a bust. He's a bust if you're involving him every game and he's just constantly messing up. When you don't involve him, he's not a bust. You're not doing your job. You're supposed to put him in a position to succeed. You're supposed to know his talent, what he can do, and make sure he get the ball. Set it up. You set it up for certain people, but you're not setting it up. I don't want to hear about a screenplay. I don't.
I'm willing to be patient because I think right now, too, I got to be thinking about Levis, and right now Levis is clearly leaning a lot on Hopkins.
Yeah,
and rightfully Hopkins
so.
is helping him.
Yeah.
But I would like to see a game or two, maybe more, between now and the end of the season. I think it's essential for Burks to have a good game between now and the end of the season.
And I think it's essential for he and Levis to have that dynamic together.
Build it. So I can see it. Or got him in there last week. He was on the field more. Still hasn't really been in the flow. I'm hoping in the coming weeks, get in the flow more. But when it's working with D-Hop,
yeah, it's like, I want to mess it up.
That's the thing. But what's the more important thing down the road? Burks, right? It's essential that Burks gives you something if he can stay out there.
And this is
a tough one.
I haven't been able to rewatch the game yet or watch the All-22, but that is one thing when I do rewatch the game I want to look for. Is Treylon Burks just not getting open?
Yeah.
Or is Will Levis not looking for him? Is he just not throwing to Treylon Burks? Because I think those are two different issues. If Treylon Burks can't get open, that's a Treylon Burks thing. That's a thing that he and Rob Moore need to work out. If he's getting open and Will Levis just isn't targeting him, just isn't looking for him or isn't throwing the football his way, then you got a trust issue. Then you got a dynamic issue between those two. So that's have you been able to watch the All-22 yet?
It's not out yet. It's not out yet.
That's one thing that I do want to look for is why is it not coming his way?
Exactly.
And why isn't it targeted his way? Is it a him thing, a Burks thing, or is it a Levis thing?
I mean, and it's okay. If it is and I want to believe it's not a Burks thing because to me, then I think it would show even more if it was a Burks thing. Like if he was loafing, wasn't running full speed, wasn't running the design plays that he's supposed to run, forgetting things, not knowing where to line up, that stuff will show. But it just seems like they're like when they take the snap, in my mind, I don't even think they're I don't even expect them to throw it to Treylon Burks now. I don't.
I forget about Treylon Burks.
I forget that he's even on the field. I'm looking like, when the ball, even if the ball goes to him, is that Chris Moore? Oh, it's Treylon Burks. It's like, and then when Derrick Henry catches the pass, I'm like, is that Treylon Burks? Oh, it's Derrick Henry.
By the way, that's
Stuff
the
like
furthest
that.
down the field I think I've ever seen Derrick Henry catch a pass.
I think
it has to be. Best pass I've ever seen him catch.
Beautiful catch.
It was a great catch.
That was very un-Derrick
He
Henry.
caught it without thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He caught it without thinking about it. Just reacted to the ball, and he didn't have to sit there. The ball didn't float or anything. It came right to him, and he caught it.
I also think that was the best pass catching game we've seen from Chig this season.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
That's a plus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Treylon, it's disappointing that they haven't, and I understand at the beginning of the season because of his injury, then he has the concussion. So I understand that. But when he comes back, there needs to be a concerted effort, like in the game plan. Like, these are the two guys that we want and we need to get the ball to in the passing game. I'm not talking about just, plays in general. I'm saying in the passing game. And the two guys we need to get it to is D-Hop and Treylon. If Treylon is that bona fide second, that helps Will Levis. That allows Will Levis, like Willie said, we're talking about the future. D-Hop is only going to be here maybe another year after this one.
I think he should be here another year, but it's not like D-Hop has 10 years left in him.
Absolutely. You hope that Burks is the guy, but if you don't involve him, you don't get Will Levis used to throwing him the football, there's going to be a problem. So he needs to be involved in the game more. And I don't know why. Again, I don't want him to cause any confusion or disrupt the locker room, but he does need to go in the office of the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and like, listen, what do I need to do, like, to be more involved? Not, I need to be more involved in the game. There's a way you can do it. Like, what do I need to do to be more involved in the game? Do I need to do it? What is it? Because right now, it's like he doesn't play. It's like he's not playing.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it is. And you never want to go through a game where you're not tackled or anything else, or you're tackled once.
Let's wrap it up with some of your phone calls and texts coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Preds fans, don't miss tomorrow night's Smashville live show at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs at 6 p.m. You can see your Predator star players up close and personal. You can get autographs and pictures. This week's special guests are Cole Smith and Tommy Novak. Smashville Live is brought to you by the Black Abbey Brewing Company.
All right, just a reminder from Loan Pronto, as we've been saying, if you have been thinking about it, and you need some cash for the holidays and you're wondering what financial move to make, here's one that's been working for a lot of people. Loan Pronto in the Express Equity line of credit. It can get you thousands of dollars, sometimes up to $100,000, even more, depending on how much equity you have in your home, and you don't have to mess with your primary interest rate. Your primary mortgage rate stays intact. So that 3% rate or whatever you might be locked in at, it stays locked in. And with Loan Pronto's Express Equity Line program, 90% of the time there's no need for an appraisal, so you can get the money fast to address your needs, whatever those might be. Home improvement, pay bills, holiday cash, credit cards, all of that stuff. Knock them out before the new year and get set for 2024. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase for live out here at Pete and Terry's Tavern at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators hosting the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pre-game coverage starting right here on 102.5. The game starting at 6 p.m. But let's wrap up today's show with some of your phone calls, your reaction to the Titans win, just like we all predicted it to happen.
Absolutely
a win in
not.
Miami? Absolutely not. Dylan is on the line with a thought on the Titans. What's up, Dylan?
Hey guys, I just had a quick question for you. I called the morning crew about this, but we never really talk about this player a lot, especially this season, but I feel like we should be talking about him. But Harold Landry, I know he's been super quiet, but, we just signed him to a huge deal not that long ago. And but it seems like last night he really developed some confidence in his ACL. Like, he seems more comfortable because he was, like I said, he was pivoting and rushing and getting around blocks and setting the edge in ways that he hasn't all season. So I just wanted to ask you guys if you've noticed that as well, if last night you saw some sort of comfortability level go up with him.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Dylan. I think I've started to see it the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and, we talked about this early in the season that, you can't expect him to come back and be that guy that he was when he got injured. It's going to take him some time. And I think we all expect it more so toward the end of the season than anything. I need to go back and watch the All-22. But he's starting to play. I think he's starting to feel, like the caller said, I think he's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with the knee and whatnot. Is he close to the player he was before he got injured? Probably not, but he's working toward that. And I expect next year to be that year that he's fully healthy. Don't even have to worry about the knee or even think about it.
I like the progress,
Yeah.
too. I was really worried early in the season this could be a career changer kind of thing. But like you said, D-Mase, sometimes you just got to give it some time. And so I was thinking, is it going to be a cap casualty kind of thing? But I feel like now he's done enough to where you feel pretty good about next year, and they're going to have more cap space. So I think he's going to be a big part of the plan next year, and he's earned it.
Yeah.
He might have double-digit sacks this year. And knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it.
It is time to
What he
revisit
has,
our
what, 7?
10
He's got 8.5.
Titans question.
8.5.
8.5 sacks on the year, four
What
games
was the
left.
over-under?
9.
It was 8.5.
Was it 8.5?
And somebody here took over.
You did.
It was me. Yeah.
Now,
You guys were worried.
I want good things for Harold Landry more than I want to be right. But four games left on the season. But the way he's been playing the past couple of weeks, and I think the Baltimore game was when I started to kind of see him turn the page there. He had one big tackle near the goal line in London. But he's looked like vintage Harold Landry.
He's gotten better over the season.
He has. He has absolutely gotten better over the season. Not a lot of love for Treylon Burks in the text line. Cameron texts in, says, dude, Burks sucks. He's been surpassed by NWI, and don't you think that 2 years in, if they're consciously allowing him to be left out of the game plan, that it's because they don't think he's good enough?
Well, you have two. Again, you can't tell me he suck, okay? There's nothing that no one can say to me that hasn't played that position that can tell me he sucks. Is he playing at the level that we expect a number one, a first-round pick to be playing at? No, he hasn't. These last 2 years has been they haven't been great from a concussion standpoint, from these little minor injuries that he can't help. It's not like they're soft tissue injuries. And then you're changing offensive coordinator. What people got to remember is, who is Tim Kelly more familiar with? D-Hop. Exactly. So he may be left. That's why I'm just frustrated. Like, y'all got to get this kid involved. Y'all have to. You got to take off this hat of, that's my guy over there. I know what he can do. And you're right. Everybody in the world knows what D-Hop can do that follows football. We need to find out if this young kid can play. Because if he can play, he's going to help our young quarterback out, and we want them both to grow. So this narrative of him not being good, I don't want to hear no more. Shut up. Shut up. Excuse me with saying shut up, but shut up. Because the kid can play. He's just been injured, and and when you go through another offensive coordinator, especially an offensive coordinator that doesn't know you but knows the other guy very, very well, there's going to be some problems. You know, as far as you getting hurt and stuff. That's why I'm just frustrated. Like, man, get the dude involved.
I want to see him get involved.
Yeah.
And if he's not the guy, then you need to figure that out and move on and find your next guy. That's going to do it for us today. Preds in action tonight, 7 o'clock against the Flyers. Pre-game coverage starting at 6 o'clock. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman and Company is up next.
Be love and love of your people. Peace.